Welcome back to the Shacknews Awards. Some would say we're an overlooked game awards show, and that's why this category is about giving an award to something that may have been overlooked this year. This is the most overlooked game of the year, 2024. Here are the nominees, and then we'll get to talking about them, and then we will vote, and we'll declare a winner. Yars Rising, Dungeons of Hinterberg, Minds Beneath Us, Emio, The Smiling Man. I believe that's Famicom Detective Club. Emio, The Smiling Man. It's the full title. Kinitsugami, Path of the Goddess. And last but not least, Prince of Persia, The Lost Crown. Who wants to kick this off talking about Yars Rising?
Yars Rising is another great effort from the team at Way Forward. And this is Atari realizing, we have a lot of IP that we haven't made enough use of. They took Yars Rising and they made it into a Metroidvania that's a lot about exploration and hacking. And Way Forward has made a darn good one. And I love that the hacking is based on the classic Yars gameplay. And I love that there's a lot of tributes to classic Atari titles. So like Yars Rising is it's hard to describe almost, but like I definitely enjoyed the time I had with it. I think it made nobody's radar when it released in September, but it is damn solid. It got a 9 from us from Lucas at Shacknews. So I think it's definitely worth trying. I think it didn't get enough love this year.
Nice. A worthy nomination. And I think the next game, you're also the one to talk about it, Ozzy. Dungeons of Hinterberg. This game's stylized as all hell.
Stylized as all hell, and it's basically like two different games. It's you're doing a lot of mini dungeons by day, and by night you're just like it's a life sim. You're exploring like a little village, you're having like a little vacation, and like you're getting to know people. You're trying to romance people at one point. How did I originally pitch this game to you, Asif? How did I describe it? It was like you know what I'm talking about. Something with Persona. I think I said it was like Persona on vacation or something.
Yeah, it was like going like on a wilderness hike or something. But yeah,
it's wildly different than anything I've seen. I think, and it pulls it off really well. And unfortunately, it released over the summer and didn't get a lot of fanfare. And I think that's too bad because this game is fantastic. It's one of the best indies I've played this year, and I think more people should play it.
It's got cool boss battles. It's got all the things you want from a dungeon crawler, and then it has like a pretty solid like.
And the dungeons don't take very long. The dungeons take like maybe 20-30 minutes at most.
And the main character kind of gives the lo-fi girl vibe off a little bit.
That's definitely true.
I'm a fan of lo-fi girls, so this is interesting. Yeah. I'm guilty, Ozzy. I overlooked this game. You got me. It came out in July, and yeah, I don't know what I was playing instead, but a worthy nomination.
A lot of Balatro.
Yeah. Probably some F-Zero in there. Minds Beneath Us.
This was one I put on here, which is a game I just discovered within the last month myself, but it's such a cool like sci-fi narrative 2D game, which is essentially about like a future dystopia where humans are used to like compute and program AI, like humans have kind of become the computers.
That seems ridiculous. That'll never happen.
Yeah, no, that's so far-fetched. Yeah. But yeah, obviously like a very like timely story that's beautifully animated, and I don't know, it's just like a cool kind of like weird cyberpunky existential narrative that hit this year from Barebone Studio. I want to mention
it's sitting at 5 stars with over almost 2,000 reviews on Steam, so it's like almost universally liked. I'm just watching some of the footage right now. It is gorgeous looking. Yeah, which I would say is important for this kind of thing. Definitely has that like cyberpunk dystopian vibe.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, very cool. Definitely something that could be overlooked. When did it come out? July. I think we figured out something, guys. The month where you're overlooked is either June Sorry, it's either July or January. I think those are the number two. Those are the 1 and 2 release months where you will be forgotten or overlooked.
That makes sense. There's so many game announcements in June.
Yeah, you get kind of, and then
Yeah.
there's like your in between stuff. There's like a Comic-Con happening in the summer, so I think some of these games just get forgotten about. Just dodge GTA 6 whenever you can, indie games. So yeah, next nomination. TJ, you reviewed this game, the Famicom Detective Club, Emmy of the Smiling Man. This is like the only category that this game popped up in for us. I noticed it wasn't nominated for horror. It wasn't even nominated for best Switch game this year. So I think even at the Shacknews Awards, this game is kind of being overlooked.
Yeah, this game would belong in it would be perfectly at home in a best narrative category. And it's a very odd thing for Nintendo to do because this is kind of like a chilling thriller story.
The rollout of it was also weird. Like they were like being super creepy with these teasers. Yeah, this is what late cycle Nintendo does though. They let their developers kind of just do their own thing, and that's what the Smiling Man was.
And I thought this story was great. Like I played the remake of the original Famicom Detective games that came out in I think 2021 or 2022 now. I felt like the storytelling here was like a perfect encapsulation of how they've developed their expertise on that type of game. It's from the same guy who works on Metroid, so it's like that guy knows how to make a creepy environment and set up interesting elements of it. And more than that, like Emmy of the Smiling Man, it kind of just like came and went, and I think that's because nobody kind of expects this kind of game out of Nintendo. But the Famicom Detective Club games are the grandfathers of modern narrative like I would say like games like Phoenix Wright, Ace Attorney would not exist if Famicom Detective Club didn't kind of pave the way and set the foundation for them. And I think it's kind of weird that people don't realize just how on par with the Phoenix Wright series Emmy of the Smiling Man is, if not even a bit better. I thought it was this was like one of the few games this year where the twists and turns actually like made me cry. It's an intense story, and I think that it's if you like a good narrative adventure, then not playing Emio is like you made a bad play. You should definitely check this one out.
I have a random question. Who do you think's more likely to be a Smash DLC character in the next Smash? Emio or Waluigi?
Emio, because nobody at Nintendo wants to give Waluigi love when it comes to Smash.
Fair. That would be weird. I could somehow see Emio end up in Smash. Awesome. Yeah, I think you've laid out a very compelling case for how this game was overlooked. And it kind of goes back to I said in another category. It really feels like Nintendo as a whole did some cool things this year that kind of got overlooked because the Switch is just so old. And I think people have Switch fatigue more than they do Nintendo game fatigue, but they're related. Here's a game that was not on Switch this year. Kunitsugami Path of the Goddess. We've talked about this in several other categories. And I do think it was overlooked in that this is a game from Capcom that I thought would maybe get some more attention. But it's different, right? It's like part tower defense, part action game kind of thing. It's interesting and unique. And I can't remember when it come out in the first half of the year, I'm guessing. If it came out in July, I'm really onto something here, guys.
It came. We were doing preview events for it in June. So
it came out in July 19th. Okay, so game companies, stop releasing games in July, or else people will forget that your game exists. I think people go outside in July. I'm being told people go outside sometimes.
They touch grass.
Sometimes.
It's a good vacation month.
Yeah, July is a good vacation month, Dom, and people are out of school. Yeah. So I guess we learned something here today, guys. Don't release a game in the month of July, whatever you do.
We've spoken a lot about Kunitsugami and why it's awesome in other categories, but yeah, I'm sad that this got overlooked the way it did. And speaking of games that got overlooked, our last one.
Yeah, last but not least, Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. Now, this is a good video game.
This is a really good video game.
Yeah, like I really enjoy the like the locomotion mechanics, the slide, all the different ways that you can get around. It does that whole Metroidvania unlock the levels as you progress kind of thing flawlessly. It runs very well on Switch, which some games don't in the year 2024. And yeah, we got Prince of Persia back. Like I feel like that IP should get more love than it does. So yeah,
those January release dates are like death for a game like this because it's way out of sight, out of mind by the time December rolls around.
It used to be like that.
Yeah,
for
definitely
movies
don't
in
release a
January,
game. Don't release your game in January, and definitely don't release it in July. That's the moral of this award.
Donovan, you reviewed this game. Why do you think it got so overlooked? Even though it got a 10 out of 10 here at Shacknews.
It got a 9, I thought.
They give it a 9, but
9. Sorry.
Mhm.
Yeah. No, I mean, amazing game, but it was another January release. Also, I think this game kind of just came out of nowhere. I mean, it had been announced, like, this wasn't years in the making. It was released in the midst of the Sands of Time controversy. So I think the Prince of Persia franchise overall has been in a very weird place. And I think that sadly a lot of people just looked at it as like a smaller, less significant thing because that's like the pie in the sky that people are waiting to learn more about.
Not to throw shade at an entire studio, do you think there's just an amount of distrust for Ubisoft games right now that is hurting the sales of their games?
I think there's.
I think there's a lot of skepticism towards Prince of Persia as a whole because of what's been happening with the Sands of Time remake. And
that's what I'm getting at. I think that franchise has a weird air around it right now. But you're also right also about the Ubisoft question because I don't know what the last like universally acclaimed game they had was.
To answer your question, in my opinion, I think that they used a very similar formula for a very long time. And I know that like there are quite a few games now that are breaking that formula. And like this is a good example. But I think that the player fatigue had already set in and people are tired and like they hear Ubisoft and like it's just like, oh, that's not going to be that cookie cutter experience. And I don't know if I think that's kind of what they're dealing with a little bit is that they just spent too many years doing too similar of a thing. And now that they're actually, doing some things that are different, I think maybe it's just not resonating.
Also, I think it's worth noting that like when it came out at the time, like Helldivers kind of took over everything. And like once Helldivers came out, like everybody forgot about Prince of Persia.
Yeah, but they're such different games that I think there was space for both of them. I do think that there's something about the Ubisoft stench kind of surrounding all their games right now that is affecting them. Yeah, and also just like you said, Ozzy, time of the year, other games on the calendar. But it makes me wonder, like, is the Prince of Persia franchise like
it's not
dying?
doing well.
It's not doing well.
No. And that's
they really
a real
need
shame.
They really need the Sands of Time remake to come out great, David. Like that can't suck. It has to be good.
No. Yeah, it has to be good. And as we mentioned other categories, this game was not just critically acclaimed, but it didn't do well commercially because the team got disbanded and the sequel got canceled. And that's a real shame because this is exactly the direction that I would have taken Prince of Persia if it were up to me. And I say this as a lifelong fan. Like the exploration has always been the defining element of that game, and exploration is really fun in the Lost Crown.
I think the only good news to come out of that disbanding of the team is that a lot of them are going to work on a Rayman game, and that's awesome news. Because
I also hope that like a bunch of them got taken, that they took a bunch of them and said, you know what, this Sands of Time game needs help, and you guys have proven that you can make a good Prince of Persia game. Go work on this, and I hope that they make that Sands of Time game really good.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't have much faith in Ubisoft management to do anything right, but there are definitely talented artists and developers and musicians and performance capture people over there. So,
fair. I mean, the Prince of Persia movie did happen. So, management.
well,
God.
maybe you could hire, I don't know, a brown person to play the
Yeah,
Prince
that
of
was-
Persia. Here's a crazy
Pro-
idea, Fisher Stevens. Maybe you shouldn't be the host. Maybe you shouldn't be a brown guy in Short Circuit too. Maybe Jake Gyllenhaal is not the Prince of freaking Persia. I don't know.
Let's not get into Ubisoft's history in movies.
But I digress.
Yeah.
Let's vote. Denny knew what he was doing there. Just throwing up the Jake Gyllenhaal softball to me. Anyway, yeah, get your shit together, Ubisoft, for the love of God. But yeah, let's vote. Denny, I'll start with you.
I mean, I'm leaning towards Prince of Persia in this one since they put out an awesome game and then having the team disbanded in that way. It's definitely overlooked. And a lot of that comes down to, seeing both the management end, but then also how it's, things like that are marketed, release dates, all things that, are not necessarily in their control. When it just comes to making a good game. So
I don't know if I ever saw an ad for the game. Like maybe like a week of ads, but like I barely saw any promo for it. Greg.
It's got to be The Lost Crown.
TJ.
Emio.
Ozzy.
Kunitsugami.
I need to play more of it.
Ozzy likes weird Capcom.
I like weird Capcom. I like any Capcom. I want Mega Man Capcom to come back though. Bill.
Prince of Persia.
Sam.
Prince of Persia, I reckon.
Steve.
Yours.
David.
Prince of Persia.
Donovan.
Stick with the Minds Beneath Us.
Okay. Let's see. I will vote for. You know what, Ozzy, you made a pretty compelling case for Dungeons of Hinterberg. I really think that deserves my vote, and I'm gonna, just based on looking at the trailer and stuff, like I'm gonna give it a try. Is that on Switch?
It's not on Switch, but it is on Game Pass.
I don't have Game Pass. Let's buy it on Steam. But yeah, I think you made a good case for it, even though you didn't vote for it yourself. All these games should be checked out. You might have missed these because they were released in July or January, which we have determined are the two worst months of the year to release a video game, unless you're like Tekken 8.
Or Monster Hunter, as we're about to find out.
Is Monster Hunter February?
Is it February? I thought it was January. Okay, maybe I'm wrong. I'm not overruled.
Hold on. I'm not entirely sure. Wilds, right? Yeah, February 28th.
Okay, overruled.
Yeah, sorry. Gave you the gavel. Sorry about that. But yeah. Okay, so yeah, I'm voting for a game that no one else voted for. Donovan did the same. Prince of Persia wins. It may be not the most prestigious award here at the Shacknews Awards, but it means that we really like your game. We wish more people bought it, played it, or appreciated it. We appreciated the Prince of Persia games, all of them here. We've mentioned Rogue Prince of Persia in several other categories, and obviously The Lost Crown in other categories. But yeah, Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown is the winner of the most overlooked game of the year 2024 here at the Shacknews Awards.